Good morning. Thanks for joining me in this keynote today. I am Alvin, the Regional Vice President for Tanium. Tanium has set up a presence in Singapore since late last year, and we are happy to be able to take part in the Connect Gulf Leaders Summit this year. The topic for this session is the age of the endpoint, because computing has moved to the edge and the endpoint is the new age. Now let's start by looking at the capabilities organizations look for when they set up their stall for cybersecurity. The first capability is visibility. Without knowing what you have, you will not know what you need to protect. Only when you know what you have can you start designing your cybersecurity strategy with confidence and with precision. The second capability is cyber hygiene. This relates to how well we can manage the configurations and settings to ensure that the attack surface is minimized. Common actions here include configuration hardening, vulnerability management, patching, and keeping software updated. The third capability is cyber defense. This is how you set up your barriers to attack to prevent attacks as much as possible and as early as possible. The best practice here, often quoted by security practitioners, is multi-layer defense. We will look at that in more detail in a short while. And finally, there is cyber response. If you cannot prevent the attack, you must be able to detect and to respond to it, to contain, eradicate, investigate, remediate, and finally, recover. As you recover, you will want to learn as much about the attack as possible so that you can assess your environment again and adjust your security posture to deal with future similar attacks. Now let's look at how organizations deploy and operationalize cybersecurity at the endpoint, which, like I mentioned earlier, is the new age. To set up cybersecurity on the endpoint, many solutions think about what they need to do on each endpoint. They then have a management server so that policies can be set at a central location. This is an important aspect of security operations, as consistent policies lead to a predictable posture, and a predictable posture will govern our enterprise-wide response to any threat. In order to scale, typically beyond a certain number of endpoints, there will be a requirement to add a second management server. To continue having a single location to set policies, we create a second management tier. When we expand to regional locations, we will add additional relay or distribution servers, either to help manage the policies in that location or to conserve the bandwidth of the location. And as we expand further to build out this architecture some more, this has become a hub and spoke model where there are many intermediaries. Let's look at some of the challenges with the hub and spoke architecture. First, there could be dead agents. This could be caused by a software conflict with something else that's running on the endpoint, or perhaps a version upgrade that has gone wrong. Many customers tell me that it is common for the endpoint agents to die, and they do not know why they die or when they die. Next, there's the possibility that the relay server will malfunction, causing you to lose visibility of all of the endpoints in that location. And finally, in every location, there could be new unknown endpoints that join the network without being properly set up. These are just three possible challenges relating to how we manage endpoint security. In the midst of all of this, your endpoint environment is changing as well when new employees join the organizations, while some may leave, and some of your endpoint assets may also undergo upgrades. Overall, these challenges create a situation where you do not have full visibility into your environment, and these challenges persist even as we deploy people to try and fix them as they arise. Now, let's look at how we deploy multi-layer defense. For every endpoint solution that we deploy, we repeat the hub and spoke infrastructure. For visibility, you will need an asset management solution. To take care of cyber hygiene, you will need to scan your endpoints for vulnerabilities. You will need to patch the vulnerabilities, and then you will want to harden the configurations of the endpoint. You may also want to monitor the file integrity. To block threats, you want to install an endpoint protection solution. And finally, to detect threats that cannot be prevented and respond to them, you will need to install an EDR. You can see that there's a lot of duplication in the infrastructure here. To create even more defense in depth, many organizations run a different solution to their servers and workstations. That exacerbates the situation further, and relating to the challenges that I mentioned earlier, different point solutions will have a different dead agent, different faulty relay servers, and different unknown assets. contributing to a confusing situation where we have really lost visibility of the environment. The larger the environment, the more likely this is to happen. The 7 solutions listed here will each have their own databases. To try to make sense of the views generated by the point solutions, many organizations pipe the data or alerts from each solution into a Security Operations Center or a SOC. The typical SOC will have this conundrum. If it does not take in enough data, it may not detect the attack. But if it takes in too much data, it may take too long to get useful insights. The inherent issues in the SOC is that the data coming in is disparate. Thus, the process of getting to insights is very manual in nature. Many solutions try to solve this using AI or machine learning with some level of success, but the big data issues persist for long-lived attacks. A separate data may be piped to your CIMDB to maintain visibility and a single source of truth for your environment. Now, this architecture gives rise to the need for a lot of manpower to operate and to maintain. The more humans there are in this, the more likely there will be human errors. At this point, it is worth considering. Did we get the impression that the multi-layer defense requires multi-vendor defense? Or did it really mean that we just need different technologies to take care of different attack vectors? Let's take a step back and take an honest look at the outcomes generated by this deployment. Do we suffer from audit failures? Do we still have misconfigurations that results in operational outages or security breaches? Have we deployed software that we are not using, resulting in an exposed attack surface or failures in license audits? Are we still running older software without knowing, leading to exposed vulnerabilities? Do we feel like we are always behind the curve when it comes to patching on time? When an incident happens, do we know where to start and how long it takes to get to a conclusion? And can I do more with less, because clearly this method of deployment has led to multiple duplicates and is not sustainable or scalable. Now let's look at a common scenario that we have faced over the years. You wake up early in the morning and a new vulnerability has just been discovered that has exploits already taking advantage of it. Your board of directors is concerned and want to know the potential impact to the business. More phone calls are made, and finally the team is activated to look into it. How long will this typically take? Let's take a look at how Tanium is different. First, we start with laying out a super fast communication infrastructure. In our patented linear chain architecture, we communicate with the first endpoint in the chain, and the question will be passed along the chain, tabulating and deduplicating along the way, and the last endpoint will respond to the entire chain. Each endpoint can look forwards and backwards for 10 additional endpoints, creating an orbit of communications. As they create the communication orbit, they are able to detect new endpoints that join the network. This means that we can actively discover new endpoints and then add them into the chain to be managed. With this high-speed architecture, we provide visibility and control in seconds over every endpoint, even across the largest global networks. I should highlight here that we are not reading off a database. The visibility is on live endpoints. In security terms, this provides heightened situational awareness. You get speed, scalability, and simplicity in getting visibility and control over your environment. With this high-speed capability, we can ask any questions of our environment, and we can know in seconds the answers. We can Google internet for information in seconds. We should be able to know our environments in seconds as well. With that knowledge, we can then take very precise control actions with confidence that the decision applies to the correct endpoints. Now that we can communicate with every endpoint at speed and at scale, and ask, know, and act with control and precision, we can build everything we need on one single endpoint. With this single agent, we see everything and do anything, taking care of risks and compliance, operations, and security. This single agent has the capability to replace many agents and many multi-point product deployments of the past. This deployment drives ROI in many ways, and in general, we find that a 10,000 endpoint organization can save in excess of $1 million a year. This analysis is relatively mature, and we can do this for any organizations that are interested. Now, many customers, especially those who are cloud first, have also requested that we manage the infrastructure for them. So this year, we launched Tanium as a service, a zero infrastructure approach to managing and securing your endpoints. In summary, for our solution, We set up one server that can manage hundreds and thousands of endpoints on-premise, remote, or in the cloud. We have a single client that can handle all of your operations, risk, and security for your endpoints, including workstations, servers, or virtual machines. This provides a single source of truth to unify and empower your operations, risk, and security teams. The Deputy CIO of the US Air Force, Bill Marion, says that any systems that could not deploy Tanium for one reason or another were deemed high risk. Generally, most security solutions can only give you what their engine was designed to do. Not many solutions give you the flexibility and agility to adapt to a new security threat that may come from a very different angle. Tanium provides that flexibility and agility. Amongst the customers who have chosen to deploy Tanium are all 5 branches of the US DoD, 9 of the top 10 banks in the US, 7 of the top 10 global retailers, and 50% of the Fortune 100. For those of you wondering if our architecture is secure, the use of Tanium by the above customers is validation that we are secure for use in the largest, most demanding, and critical organizations globally. We would also be happy to have a deep dive session with you to satisfy your security architects that we are secure. In 2017, when WannaCry was spreading rapidly through many networks, we helped the US Air Force to remediate it within 41 minutes. This was game-changing for them. You can read about it in the link below. I have come to the end of my presentation. I look forward to the panel discussion right after this. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn for a private discussion. Thank you.